how's it going? So today I'm going to be doing some maintenance in our flower beds. I'm going to be doing both some cutting back of flowers, deadheading, and planting. I picked out some really fun stuff at the garden center this morning that I'm excited to get in the ground. I wanted to start the video though here in the shade because both of these flower beds are in full sun spots and it's in the 90s today. We do have a little breeze, so it feels pretty good right here, but I know that's not going to last very long. I just think it's a really good idea this time of year to get out and really look at your flower beds because our first flush of perennials are done. So I've cut back most of my salvia. I'm going to cut more of it back today. Salvia, veronica, delphiniums, a lot of those things are done, and they are working on, you know, regaining energy for their second bloom, but they're not quite there yet. So you can really see holes like where we need some color midsummer. And it's so hard for me because I usually have so many ideas rolling around in my brain of what projects I want to start that it's hard for me to kind of take a step back and fix what I have in front of me already. And I have so many flower beds that are kind of like right in between. Like I've kind of done a little work in them, but I need to do a whole lot more. Whether that means removal of what's there and starting over, or just kind of adding stuff here and there, which is what I'm going to be doing today. In fact, I'll be working over by Hebe, where I've already done a little work this year, and I'll explain a little bit more when we get over there. But let me show you some of the fun stuff I picked out. So I've got 3 different varieties here, all of which are just absolutely beautiful. I've got Russian sage, just the traditional variety. I love denim and lace, but it is a variety that stays a little smaller, and I've got a spot where I wanted something that got a little bit bigger. So this one here grows about 4 by 4. You can see the foliage right there. I can smell it from here, but it's got just those beautiful blooms that are just going crazy right now. And then we've got Ruby Star Echinacea. Look at these. This is a little bit aged, but look at this. This is huge. I think they've got the most striking flowers, and look at how huge. And I think it's beautiful. I think this is a beautiful combination, the Russian sage with the echinacea. Now this one grows, I think, 2 by 2. Let me find a tag. So there's the front of the tag, deer resistant. Yep, about 2 to 3 feet tall by 2 feet wide. It's really hardy to -40. Attracts butterflies, great cut flower, yada yada. You guys know echinacea, they're awesome plants. And then this one right here is probably my largest one of the 3. This is called a Miss Violet butterfly bush. So here's the tag right here. And I've done a spotlight video on this particular variety before because I love it so much. Zone 5 through 9 grows 4 to 5 feet tall and wide. So not only do these 3 plants provide amazing color, you know, the purples and the pinks, they're just so pretty to me, but they also are all very drought tolerant once they're established. They can all withstand like pretty crummy soil, and they all 3 attract pollinators, which I think is awesome. So anyway, let's head over to Hebe and I'll show you kind of where I'm thinking of tucking these in. So the first thing I should do is prune this weeping willow. I love this tree so much, but it gets out of control really quickly. And we had a windstorm come through the other night, and so now we've got like a layer of brown willow leaves throughout this whole bed. Also, when the branches get down this low, the sprinkler can't water this area properly because the water deflects off these branches or these leaves. So I really do need to take care of that because you can see this grass, especially right in here, is starting to suffer. And it's hard too for these plants being right underneath the weeping willow because that willow wants so much water. I have found myself needing to do some supplemental watering in here, and that's why these plants are struggling a little bit. I need to add a little bit more drip in there once I get everything cut back this fall or next spring. We've done a little bit of planting in here. You know, I planted this Fat Albert blue spruce. This is a prairie rose, I believe. Prairie rose panicum. Something, can't remember. And then these are the lemon jade sedum, and we've got some pink profusion salvia I planted this spring, and it was the most glorious eye-catching color, but I do need to cut that back today. We've also got a variegated iris I transplanted from another flower bed. It's struggling a little bit this year. It should be fine by next year, but it is the most wonderful plant. I mean, the foliage alone is so striking, and then the blooms are a dark purple and they smell just like grapes. Then we've got a little pink potentilla in here and some Supertunia Bordeaux. And this is one of the areas I kind of want to plant in. I'm thinking there's a honeysuckle here and a kind of a gold juniper. This is all old variety of salvia. It always wants to flop over. It's always a little bit mangy, so I think I'm going to dig all of that out because there's much better salvia varieties that I could be planting here if that's what I was going for. But I think what I'll do is some taller Russian sage toward the back and then maybe some echinacea toward the front. I think that would be really pretty. There are Rudbeckia in here, which I adore. Love this plant. And there's a whole bunch of it in here. These are actually from the previous owners. And I popped a Vertigo pennisetum right here this spring. And then we've just got some other kind of random things going on. There is a geranium back in here that needs to be cut back, and I'm thinking of popping the butterfly bush right in here to kind of fill in this space and peek over the boxwood hedge. I think, let me get over here. Whew, it looks bright. But don't you think looking this way, it would be pretty to have something right here with some summer color? I think it would look pretty. So anyway, that's what this part of the project is looking like. I do have some Morden blush roses in there too. I need to maybe deadhead a little bit. I am leaving some of the hips on there because they color up beautifully. Like this is the one of the most glorious roses for rose hips. I just love it. But you know, this is just going to be kind of a work in progress flower bed because the thought is back here, like where the opening is, to make really wide flower beds all the way over here, which I think would be really pretty. But we're not ready for that yet. I need to work on current things I've got going on. I need to control myself. Okay, so let's do some maintenance here. I'm gonna go get the pruners and we'll start in on the willow. Doesn't it just feel magical though? Walking under a weeping willow tree. Oh, I love it. I've recently been in a similar situation. At least this time I don't have to go get the trailer. But don't you think that looks so much better? Just having that canopy lifted a little bit, the plants are going to be so much happier that are right here, and the grass will be able to receive the water it needs. In fact, today I'm going to set a sprinkler right there just for a little bit of extra water. So what I think I'm going to do now is cut back what needs cutting back. So the phlox right here and the pink profusion salvia, and I'll go ahead and dig out the salvia right here, and then we'll work on placing these little beauties. So let's take a closer look at this salvia. You can tell that most of what you can see is spent or, you know, very soon to be on its way out completely. There's a little bit of color left. But if we look closer in on this plant, you can see new buds starting to form. So you can see one right there. You know, there's some other buds down in here. It's a little hard to see because of the sun, and then I'm casting my own shade on it here. There's a bud right there. So you could, you know, go through the painstaking process of following each one of these stalks down and cutting it right above where there's a new bud. But that would just take forever with something like this. So I tend to like to go in with my clippers and just cut it back a good distance, like about this far. So I'll show you what I'm gonna do and what's left over when I'm done. I wonder what the heck this is. That's weird. It was like one of those mushrooms. I don't know what the heck that was. Weird. So I just pruned them down quick into little mounds. I used to take them all the way back to the ground, even in midsummer, so that they would flush back fresh, kind of like this one has done right here, and it's already got buds on it. But the only problem with that is that it delays bloom time a little bit. So when you just take it down, you know, to where there's still buds left in there, instead of taking the whole thing down, you'll get another set of blooms a little bit earlier. And you definitely could painstakingly go through and just remove the old blooms and leave every single bud, because I'm sure I sacrificed a few new buds when I cut that back. But when you have a ton of perennials to cut back, sometimes you just don't have time to do that. So now I'm gonna dig this salvia out, and I'm gonna try to get a decent sized root ball because I think I know somebody who will want to put it in their garden. So this is what I ended up doing. I'm just using one Russian sage in this spot because it gets 4x4. So I want to give it plenty of room to be able to grow to its full size. And then there's my little drift of the Ruby Star Echinacea. There's 5 of them. And then as we pan this way, you can see the butterfly bush right there. I haven't planted it yet, but I think it's gonna look really pretty, kind of tucked in that spot for some summer color. And this area is gonna require a little bit more work. So it's looking pretty good now that the phlox is deadheaded and there's new blooms coming out. This is a second flush right here on the front ones. The back ones all have buds, they're just not in bloom yet. But I think what I wanna do, I'm gonna use the other 2 Russian sage in here. And then with that pink rose, I think we'll have some really pretty summer color. But I think I'm going to, since I have such a large drift of the phlox, I'm gonna remove some of those maybe in the fall and put another drift of Echinacea in here. So I've got a little bit of variance of color and of texture because I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 phlox in this area, and I really don't need that big of a drift, and I would like a little bit more pop for summer color. I'll wait to move those phlox though until it's a little bit safer, probably fall or maybe even early spring, because I've got lots of other areas in the garden where that phlox would look really good, and it's a pretty variety. So it'll remain like it is right now other than the Russian sage that I'll pop in today, and then I'll fix the rest of the bed later. But the Velveteen Coleus in here, let me turn the camera back around. It is amazing. So I need to figure out what kind of perennial I can put in here that can handle shade for a good portion of the day and then really strong afternoon sun, which it might be a heuchera. But I really think that that is necessary, kind of that color block in here. We've got the limelight hydrangeas, which are full of buds. They just bloom later, so you can see the buds there all over the plants. And then that really pretty deep color. So anyway, and that's the whole reason why I like to try annuals in areas I'm unsure of. That way I can see if it's something I like, and then I can find a perennial substitute. Okay, so now I'm gonna get all of these things planted, and then we'll move on to the next area. Even though I could fuss in this flower bed for probably days, I always end up spending way too much time and doing stuff like this that I don't intend on doing, and then I don't make it very far in the garden, and I'm getting real tired of it. Butterfly bush is in, and I think it's gonna look so pretty, especially next to this pink rose, and then there's the white daisies. And then once it fills in, you'll be able to see purple and then see like a view beyond it, and I think that'll be really nice. One thing about butterfly bushes is that they actually like to be planted a little bit higher than the current soil level. And I don't know how well this camera is showing it, but the crown of the plant is up higher than the current soil level because they do not like to have any moisture settling in around the crown of the plant, because that can rot it out really easily, especially if you have a really wet fall and winter. So I have really good luck planting them up higher so that the water has a chance to run away from the crown of the plant. Don't you think that's gonna be so pretty? I mean, it already is. The Russian sage, the Echinacea, that really strappy iris with the variegated color. I think it's really pretty. And then we've got the butterfly bush peeking over from over there. As I was working in this bed, I was thinking that I may end up moving this salvia that I cut back today in favor of something with blue foliage that's bold, like a lamb's ear or something like that. Because I think I need the color and textural difference. Those Morden blush roses right there, and the lemon jade sedum and the salvia all have a very similar appearance, which I don't tend to like that unless they're all in bloom. They don't really look tremendously different. So I may end up doing that, and that's just how it goes sometimes with flower beds. It maybe takes a try or two to get like the perfect blend of plants. And then right over here, I've got the 2 extra Russian sage. One there, I moved the fountain grass to another flower bed where I think it'll be happier. And then this one right here can grow and kind of shroud the base of Hebe there. And then, like I said, I'll move some of these phlox and do another little drift of Echinacea, and I think it's gonna be really perfect. So the next stop for today's projects is the greenhouse. And this is gonna seem kind of funny since we're toward the end of July, but I still have some annuals to plant. And I have had these yellow Marguerite daisies sitting in here since early May, and they're starting to languish in their pots. So I thought, you know what, today I'm gonna get them in the ground. Here they are right here. They're super healthy. They just need to be groomed up, and I'm gonna remove all the spent blooms. And I may plant them with a couple of purple fountain grass and some plain the blue salvia. It's, you know, crazy how much we get planted, and yet I still have these little projects hanging out that I wasn't able to get to, and it's not exactly like we weren't doing anything. Yeah, I just don't know why I didn't squeeze this one in. So anyway, I think I'm gonna be planting these along the west side, kind of where the pathway curves. So let me show you a little bit closer up these plants. I'm a little bit embarrassed. So these are called golden butterfly, and they just need a little bit of cleaning, and they will be totally fine. This is a super tough, sun-loving perennial. Like, the foliage is all healthy other than the stuff I need to groom off, which this is typical of plants that live in nursery cans for a little bit too long. So I've got several of them here, which I think are gonna make a really wonderful impact in the garden. And then I've got a few plain the blue salvia that I saved because I thought that the blue and the yellow would be really pretty together in the garden, and then a couple of purple fountain grasses. I'm kind of amazed at how cleared out our greenhouse gets. It gets so full, like end of April and May, and we kind of work through a bunch of projects, and now there's like space on all the tables. There's hardly anything on the ground. It's kind of a good feeling. And then after I get this stuff planted, which this will be, I think, a total of maybe 3 flats of things out in the garden, and it'll all be on drip system. I mean, that's 3 less flats that I have to water every single day and worry about. And these ones, since they're such, these ones, I catch myself saying that now, since these are so big in their nursery cans, they tend to dry out a lot quicker because they utilize so much water. So anyway, I think what I'm gonna do is set up the camera, and I'm gonna show you how I clean up one of these Marguerite daisies while we're still in the greenhouse and a little bit protected from the sun, and then we'll head out to the west side and get them all planted. Okay, I hope you guys can see that really well, but see how nice and tall this plant is. So first thing I'm gonna do is just remove any of this dead stuff or kind of like damaged leaves toward the bottom, and that will immediately make the plant look a heck of a lot better. And then I'll go ahead and remove the spent bloom. So to do that, super easy. I just follow a stem down to where it gets to a fresh, like where I can see a nice bloom coming off of it, and I just clip it like that. Let me get a little closer to show you. Okay, I hope you can see this, but see all of these spent blooms right here? They're all attached to the same stem, almost all of them. So if I follow that stem down, I just clip it off where I see a new fresh one coming up, where there's a new bud. So I'm gonna clip this one off. All 3 of those spent blooms are gone, 4 of those. And then like this one right here, spent bloom, I follow it back to here because there's another bud right there. So I'm just gonna continue doing that on the whole plant. It will not take me very long, and these things will look so much better, and then they will start to flourish once we get them planted in the ground. So doesn't that look so much better? Just fresh blooms, you can see all the buds forming, and nice foliage all the way down. I did want to mention that these do not require deadheading in order to keep blooming. They will keep blooming regardless, but I just wanted to clean these up because I just felt so bad about the state I let them get into before I put them out in the landscape, and that way they're starting really fresh. So I'm gonna just finish up the rest of these and then we'll head out. All right, so here are all the purple fountain grass and the daisies that look so much better. And then I have a handful of plain the blue salvia that I'm just gonna carry. So before we get to the other end, which is where all these flowers are gonna go, I just wanted to give you kind of an update on how this area is looking. I haven't done an enormous amount of planting. You can see the Limelight hydrangea standard that was kind of struggling last year is doing wonderful this year. I love it. There's some perennials down below, Buddleia and Ambridge rose, roses, and I haven't really done much else. I mean, there's some sunflowers over there on that side, and then I did plant some on the other end, but I stayed with just white flowers kind of in the middle here, both in the urns and the Supertunia Vista Snowdrift, which is doing wonderful. And I'm wondering if I should stick with that kind of color palette, like just shades of green with white blooms. We do have some lighting in here. These are little solar lights you can get for like $5 at Home Depot, and we just pointed one at each urn. So you can see those lit up at night, and then of course the white flowers just shine. So I would love to know what you guys would do if this was your space. Like, would you try to keep it controlled in the color department, or would you just pick a couple colors to repeat? Or since there's so much formality already set up in this space, would you just go for it with color? I would love to know. right, so here's the view from the other side, and this little kind of triangle swoopy area is where I'm planting all of the annuals. The driveway comes in right here, so let me turn around. I thought it would look pretty just to have a really big splash of color right here. On this other side, I have Lady Emma Hamilton roses. There's one on the other side of the fence. So I've got kind of a trio and a crabapple. I've got some angel face Cascade Blue Angelonia, some sunflowers that will be available next year. These are called Suncredible and they're awesome. We've got the Hot and Cold Nephofia, a Weeping Blue Spruce, and I've got several different kinds of squash and pumpkins. These I planted on July, boy, was it July the 1st? It was the first week of July, I can't remember. But they're up and looking good. A few King Tuts right there. Anyway, so I'm just gonna place these plants and get them in the ground. I am super excited to see how this mix turns out because the purple fountain grass will be my centerpiece. It's the tallest growing out of all three of these. And then the next step down will be the plain the blues, and I only had 7 of those, so I just kind of dotted them. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then the rest all the way around is the Marguerite Daisy. So I think it's going to be a really pretty blend when they have a chance to just kind of grow in, fill in a little bit, and start blooming a little bit better after their nice little haircut that they got today. I think it'll be a nice mirror as well to the other side of the pathway with the yellow sunflower and the blue Angelonia. We'll have the yellow and blue kind of just mirroring that, and I think it'll be a really pretty look down here. All right, so now that I am sufficiently sweaty and dirty, I think I'm going to be done for the day. It feels good to get those 2 projects done and work on another flower bed and fill in a little space down here. I'd fully intended on planting a bunch of zinnia seeds out here, and I just never got to it. Was so busy right around the time when I really would have needed to seed them in order for them to really fill in this year. I did a little bit of zinnias in my raised beds, but I think that's it for this year, and then I'll decide what I want to do in this space over the course of the winter most likely. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope it was helpful, or I don't know. I'm hoping that these type of videos are motivating to get out and do something in your own garden. So anyway, thanks so much for hanging out with me and watching this video, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.